parents love, a good man tried to keep making it great. Pray that God will take care of us. The system is failing us. We good men die for the things that they say. And I can't just be quiet. So I gotta be brave, cause this is America. Lately it's scaring us. But one good man can change it all in a day.
Killed in cold blood for having a discussion, and liberals are celebrating murder like it's justice. You didn't kill a villain or the evil that it comes with. You killed a father and a husband. And I'm so tired of the left and all the wokery. We can't get along if you just kill us when we don't agree. Sniper rifle fire from a liberal that no one sees. Scared I might be next to die when I'm just buying groceries. Charlie, well, make sure your children know that defending all our freedom is why you aren't coming home. I hope heaven has a window you can watch your children grow and hear your message echo from below. And we ain't backing off or giving up. I'll preach what you taught me. They may have killed a soldier, but that man had an army. This is far more deep than some political parties. And you can't kill freedom, so this one is for Charlie.
This ain't the America that all our parents love. A good man tried to keep making it great. Pray that God will take care of us. The system is failing us. We good men die for the things that they say. And I can't just be quiet. So I gotta be brave, cause this is America. Lately it's scaring us. But one good man can change it all in a day.
All right. What is up, everybody? Hopefully you guys are having a great Friday. We had to kick things off a little early. I got a lot to do tonight, so we're going to go for about maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours. We'll probably go to at least 9, unless I get preoccupied a little bit early, but we'll go to probably at least 9 o'clock tonight. And we got a lot to unpack. This is probably one of the episodes that I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to have to watch twice. I actually really hope Sam Parker was watching this space tonight. So when he joins us, because there's nobody that does these like intellectual deep dive breakdowns better than Sam Parker. But she had a lot to unpack. Maze, did you get to watch all of the show tonight? Maybe Maze isn't able to grab to her mic.
No,
oh, yeah, there she is.
actually, I was sorry. No, it was Halloween, so I was doing all the Halloween stuff. But I did not get to watch it. I've seen posts about it though. What happened?
Man, and Candace, I mean, she unpacked so much and she made so many connections with these flights that it was like, I don't even know. It's like one of those shows where I'm like, holy shit, I need to watch this like 2 or 3 times because it was such an in-depth. She went for probably 40.
Sorry, I'm having technical issues with that space. Let me try to jump back.
So not just like when they were in Utah, the day of the assassination, but previous to that at like, I can't even count how many events, probably at least I would say like 6 to 8, if not maybe more events. These same flights were in the same area, the same exact time that Turning Point was. And it wasn't just the flights that happened. There was like random shootings that happened. And Pastor Mike McCoy was at, or Rob McCoy was at, or the pastor that was kind of like indirectly involved as these people were getting assassinated or shot up, or the school shootings or church shootings or nightclub shootings or whatever they were. It was so much that like my brain's fried even trying to explain it. So I don't know if Taylor, I don't know if you saw this and you wanted to jump up here. I saw your hand jump in here really quick. If anybody did a deep dive into this or understands everything that Candace broke down in her show and wants to go into that, that's what I'm really looking to get into. Sam said he's going to be joining us here in a minute. He's watching Candace's show right now. And then Candace basically laid out what it almost looks like that these Turning Point organizations and these religious organizations and these pastors that become, I guess, pastors of these mega churches, that these churches may or may not necessarily be there to necessarily rile the troops behind Jesus Christ, but these churches become perfect objects or what word am I looking for? Perfect vectors to launder mega amounts of money. And when you start looking into like the LDS church, basically Candace at one point in her show was like, I don't know if you guys thought that Turning Point was a Christian organization, but it's not. It's an LDS organization. And she did a lot. I mean, she went through a lot. So Taylor, were you able to watch the show tonight? Is that what you wanted to jump up in here and talk about? Or Daniel, is that what you wanted to jump up in here and talk about?
Yeah, Taylor, do you want to go first? Okay, so yeah, I watched it, and who's the guy that she was talking about that's like was second in charge at TPUSA, Ryan? Skylar or something or other, right? I can't remember. But the head guy there, I guess she said that he's a homosexual. It's well known that he was like hooking up with boys or young men that worked at TPUSA or at different events, etc., and that he apparently owns a massive amount of property and he's part of the LDS Church. And that's when she said that he's in charge of hiring basically at the organization, and he hires a massive amount of Mormons to work at TPUSA, and he owns a massive amount of property himself. And she said, like, whenever somebody owns a large amount of property like he does, it's something, there's something there, like there's a there. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen, there's a show that came out last year sort of about the history of the Mormon Church in Utah in the 1800s. Very like grotesque, violent show about how they basically claimed the land and what they had to do to sort of make their foothold in that state. And I don't know if everybody here knows, but the LDS Church has its own private wealth fund, for profit, that manages around $200 billion. Candace didn't mention that in her show, but it's true. You can look up, the name of the entity is Deseret Asset Management, DAM. It's a for-profit holding company owned by the Church of Latter-day Saints. But listen, I'll land here and say that it seemed like this episode, she's starting to connect some dots between possible money flowing into and out of TPUSA that Charlie was unaware of, almost like a money laundering operation that was going on. And I don't know, maybe he caught on to it or something. But yeah.
Well, let me jump back in here, Daniel, because I'm gonna jump back into. So I got this clip here. I want to play this 5-minute clip of Candace because there's when I had it all landed out there, and I just started to try to throw this clip up here, and it got me distracted. So just give me 1 second, so that way I can play this part. I'm gonna let this part play. Okay, here it goes.
And backstage, go hard at Israel, right? He's done. Charlie's done. He just is. That's just the reality, which is why it was crazy. And people were trying to lie about this. I was like, this lie will not stand. And he's telling Tucker Carlson to go hard in the paint. Now, I know for a fact that when Tucker came off stage, one donor immediately, a woman who I have not named yet, instantly started yelling at Charlie. Charlie then gets the full donor squeeze. You are not allowed to be anti-Israel. This feels like a good time to mention that the last time that I spoke at Turning Point USA's conference in 2024, there was this random sidebar conversation that I had with Tyler Boyer. Tyler Boyer is the king of shady at Turning Point USA. He is the one, like I said, he has hired every person around Charlie. Joke's on you if you think Turning Point USA is a Christian organization. It's a Mormon one, okay? And Tyler Boyer said to me backstage, there was something going on with like Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes. I can't recall. This is, again, 2024. And I said to him, why don't you just have Charlie debate Nick? Like the common sense thing to me is just like have the debate, right? It's not a big, it's like all of this. I think Nick had maybe come actually to the conference with like some people because he was doing that for a little bit. And I was like, why don't you just like debate him? Like, I don't know. I'm like pro conversation. And Tyler said to me, Turning Point USA will just always be pro-Israel. Like, we're just never not going to be pro-Israel. Didn't think anything of it at the time, but in retrospect, it's kind of a weird thing to say. Like, what do you mean it will never be anti-Israel? What do you mean it will always be pro-Israel? That's just what we are. We're pro-Israel. What do you mean that's just what we are? You're supposed to be an organization that's dedicated to free speech. And what comes with free speech is the ability to think freely, the ability to process the information that is being spoken to you and to think freely. You care about free markets, which I think actually it relies upon free speech to have free markets. I don't even think the markets are free right now. And so I'm just trying to understand this concept that Turning Point is just never going to not be pro-Israel, actually, in the retrospect. And so if we fast forward a year later, Tucker Carlson's on the stage and his hype man is Charlie Kirk. And he's like, just hit him hard. And he goes out there and he hits them harder than anything. And suddenly there's an explosion, right? And they're really angry, They are very angry. Josh Hammer is angry. Seth Dillon is angry. Far be it from them to ever tell the truth about that. These people were going to lie. Oh, he never blinked, and we were just his greatest supporters. Bob Shillman is angry, and they're basically saying, Charlie, this can never happen again, and you have to be pro-Israel. That's kind of the vibes that they're putting down. Okay.
Trust me, guys. These guys over here. So, I mean, it's so much to unpack. Hey, Diligent's in here. Let's get Diligent up here as well. I wonder if Diligent was able to unpack and watch the entire stream. There was so much today that I couldn't even wrap my head around it. These flights. Now she's saying that, that Turning Point USA is a Mormon organization. I mean, this is fucking wild, guys. Absolutely wild. Let me get Diligent up here 1 second, and then go ahead, Maze. I'll let you take the mic for a second.
Yeah, that's
This one's live. I can't.
that's super
interject.
wild. Especially this Mormon thing has been coming up, and I shouldn't say I accidentally watched. It was like, when you watch YouTube and then it'll kind of feed in the next video, which was kind of going into the whole Mormon thing and how like in their book they believe in the and the way it was something really connected to the whole Zionist thing, and I was kind of just listening to it as I was doing laundry, moving around. But it's interesting how it's coming up so much now, and for it to be in Utah. But first, let me just do a little housekeeping, and I want to welcome everybody here. It's about 15 minutes after 7 p.m. on Friday, TGIF. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you guys can please repost the space, hit the little purple pill and repost this, put this in your DM groups. And if you had a chance to watch Candace and you have any comments and whatever, then please come on up. But yeah, we do have a hand. Do you want me to go to the hand? Go to Daniel and to...
It's just real quick, Maze, in reference, thanks, man. It's just real quick in reference to the Zionist thing and the Mormon church connection. The guy who started the Mormon church, his name is Joseph Smith. He sent one of his guys, Orson Hyde, in 1830 to Jerusalem to dedicate the land for the return of the Jews. Hyde offered a prayer on the Mount of Olives in 1841, dedicating the land for its rightful heirs. They believe that the Jews are the chosen people and have a unique role in the salvation of the world. So basically, the LDS Church was Zionists before Zionism was even a thing.
Very, very interesting. So welcome up here, Mr. Kaplan. Choose Liberty. I did see your hand up. I think it was your hand. But was it your hand? if I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to chime in. If not, we'll go to Timmy.
No, I didn't have my hand up, but happy Halloween.
Okay.
You can go to Timmy.
Oh
I'll chime
yeah,
in
it is
later.
Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. Timmy, welcome. What you
Hey,
got?
welcome. So I'm glad this all came out finally because I'm sick of getting called an anti-Semite for chasing the money. So yeah, this has been known for quite a bit as far as the Mappin family, who also has ties to the Evangelican and Scientology, is connected with a lot of the Zionist Evangelican churches here and the Mormon churches promoting Zionism and funding it. I just posted in the pill some of the things with the Egyptian consulate and the British consulate also that connects the Pritzker family, the Crown family, and Rand McNally of the MAP CIA company, all Chicago families and part of the Aspen Institute, which you've heard me talk about before. They're all, it's kind of like this sick holy trinity from global Zionists to the Mormons, LDS, and Scientology. And they spend a shit ton of money just to be able to act like nonprofits or not pay taxes. They all have connections. It even gets even sicker to Oprah Winfrey. So Boeing Asset Management, then the chief investment officer went from there to University of Chicago, who then went over to Oprah Winfrey's personal billionaire office in Los Angeles. They all kind of just meet at the same globalist events. They all have these charities, these NGOs where they get the people on the down and outs. They have pawn shops, they have AA treatment centers, they have women halfway shelters, all these sick things to recruit people. But they also have direct ties to intelligence too. Mormon, Scientology, the Zale Jewelry family and Mark Baum, who's written in The Big Short, have been trying to put in $10 million a year to these Judeo-Christian churches. They have KPIs and everything where it's like investing in a startup company where they're flying out the evangelical pastors to Israel to bring them closer to Israel so then they can go and preach it to all the flock as well. All this is been for a while. Sorry, I'm going on like a bunch of tangents. The money all connects, mortgage-backed securities. They've done all these crises together where they've literally done the peaks and troughs. All these just blow-ups have been kind of this whole sick holy trinity. Sorry, I started going all over.
No, Tim, you're on fire, brother. And that's what I've been saying about this whole Trump administration this entire time, right? Like, we gave him the House, we gave him the executive. Kash Patel was supposed to come in there and fucking clean house. And you look at fat, sloppy motherfuckers like Pritzker, right? And it just irks me. Like, you can't tell me that fat piece of shit billionaire.
Oh no, he lost connection.
Did we lose him?
Oh shit, sorry. When did I cut off there, Maze?
You said the fat, sloppy Pritzker.
Okay, yeah.
That piece of shit Pritzker, and you were
Yeah,
on a
that
roll.
fat
So
piece
continue.
of fucking shit Pritzker, right? That fat, sloppy motherfucker. You cannot tell me that this billionaire who's absolutely gutted Chicago. So me and JJ went to Chicago during the peak of the invasion, right?
Oh no.
Uh-oh. We lost you again.
What the fuck is going on with my mic? They keep fucking cutting me off. Every time I'm on a rip here, I'm just going to keep looking at my mic so I know when it cuts off. So this fat piece of shit Pritzker, right? When they were shipping millions of illegal immigrants, I mean millions of Venezuelans into fucking Chicago, like that wasn't by accident, right? Our government, the CIA, was trying to carry out a regime change in Venezuela in 2007.
There we go.
Check your mic. Wow. That is so fucking nuts. Okay, I'm gonna rip out my microphone and put back on my actual. This is just my phone, so it shouldn't happen again. So this Pritzker, right, and then the Venezuelans that were going in there, like our CIA had 100,000.
Shit. Are you fucking kidding me?
Pritzker's after you, man.
Holy fuck, dude, this is weird. Okay, now it's not just
your
happening.
phone.
This is fucking crazy. Okay, so I might be onto something here, right? So these Venezuelans were getting shipped into Chicago specifically for some fucking reason. They were putting these Venezuelans in the Standard Club Hotel, a 5-star hotel, open fucking bar, right? Open bar, full room and board. They were getting $4,400 a month of prepaid visas that automatically refilled every month on top of their EBTs, on top of the food stamps, on top of everything else that these people were getting. The food wasn't good enough. So then the government of Chicago signed a $50 million contract with a gourmet sub sandwich company to deliver 3 gourmet meals a day to the Venezuelans staying inside the Standard Club Hotel. It was the most bizarre shit I've ever seen in my life, to the point where they were taking, like, if you got a parking ticket and you couldn't pay your parking ticket, if it went longer than whatever X amount of time, they would come and repossess your car. And if they repossess your car, they impounded your car. If your car sat in impound for longer than 21 days, then it became property of the United States government. And the city of Chicago was literally giving away your vehicles to illegal immigrants who just invaded our fucking country. And it got so bad that so many people were getting pulled over without having a license plate, because once they got your car, they couldn't get insurance on it. They couldn't register it. So they were getting ready to pass a law that made it illegal, or they did pass a law that made it illegal for the police officers in Chicago to pull somebody over who didn't have a fucking license plate on their car. Like, that's how fucking corrupt the city of Chicago was.
Ryan, it's worse. It's worse. So remember that Tom Pritzker, JB, the governor's uncle, it's resurfacing again. He was the #1 name on the Epstein list for raping that. He's the chairman of the Hyatt hotels. So they were also making money off all the illegals going in the hotels. But let's go back a little bit further. In 1991, his uncle tried to overthrow the Hungarian government with the CIA, literally tried to take that super veto vote. In addition to that, they were a part of the great financial crisis. So Rahm Emanuel, who was the mayor of Chicago, his father was an Ergen.
I'm not. I'm showing Daddy.
Hold on,
Somebody got a
Daniel.
hot
You have a hot mic. It was cute, but anyway, sorry.
So-
Go ahead.
So Rahm Emanuel's father was an Ergon. He was an Israeli fighter. He moved to Chicago, where he then connected with the Daley family. Mayor Daley's brother, Bill Daley, and Rahm Emanuel went into the Clinton administration. They put in the financing to make lending standards lesser, where everybody gets a mortgage. And J.B. Pritzker's sister went to loan the Superior Bank and created mortgage-backed securities subprime, basically. Blew up that bank, $600 million. All her friends made money. She then went into the Obama administration, was part of the head of commerce also. She was also part of Rebuild Ukraine. She also was heading Harvard Management when they had in 2015, $600 million of losses on the portfolio, tons of Jeffrey Epstein movements back and forth. And Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking in mortgage-backed securities. And then also part of the Rebuild Ukraine part, where she was literally ready to just make money on war. They've been trafficking children, plus they have a transgender billionaire. They've donated to like 64 NGOs all over the place. And they're also donating to the mayor of San Francisco, who JB grew up with, because JB was born in San Francisco, then moved over here. So they're literally kind of teaming up with the state of California and state of Illinois against Trump on what to do with the National Guard as well. It's like they're fucking evil, and they are so much more organized than anybody has any clue. He's not a bumbling buffoon. He's the fall guy for the family.
Hey Timmy, can you record a video? Are you anonymous? Or are you trying to hide or stay behind the scenes in this? Can you record a vertical video and kind of just go on that exact same rant? Try to keep it under 5 minutes so I can report on it.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% transparent, man. And just to let you know, I sat across that fucking piece of shit 8 months ago. So I'm happy to tell him the Epstein one, the Tom Pritzker.
Oh man, thank you. This is the shit, guys. Like, listen, like I've only been awake, in awake meaning into politics for maybe 3 years, at best going on 4, right? And like, I'm over here like breaking this shit down. Like my eyes are fucking wide open. So when you have people like Kash Patel that have fucking been inside our government, they were in on the Trump administration, the previous Trump administration, they worked at the upper echelons of our fucking government. And then we make this asshole director of our fucking FBI and we send him there with a fucking mandate, bitch. Like you're going to go in there and you're going to fucking eradicate the gosh damn corruption out of our government before it destroys our fucking country. And you go in there and not only do you not fucking do what we asked you to do, you actively aid in covering up the Epstein files. Then you allowed Charlie Kirk to get his fucking head blown off. And then when Tulsi Gabbard and her team decide to start looking into forged intelligence ties, which anybody in their right mind looks at this and goes, yeah, this was a fucking high level assassination. This was a fucking planned hit. They wanted to publicly execute Charlie to send a message just like they did with JFK, right? Like nobody is untouchable to these fucking people. And you go in there and you fucking try to cram this fucking trans lone shooter shit down our throat, dude. It makes every American's blood fucking just boil, like with outrage. So if like I can see it and I've only been here for fucking 4 years and there's this much information, this much evidence, like get that out on the internet, guys. If you have the ability and you guys are doing these in-depth little dives like Timmy's doing, record them, try to keep them 3 to 6 minute videos, keep them short, make them vertical, post them on your timeline and then shoot the link to me in a DM. Try to be as articulate as you can. Use screen recordings. So when you're dropping facts, put screen recordings in the video. So you're talking about specific, your name and names. Put photos up there, put videos, put images of their fucking face over yourself while you're talking. It only takes 2 seconds. Every single iPhone, you have the app iMovie. You can do it in iMovie. You can download Video Leap. It's $5 a month. Every video you see me make on my cell phone that's vertical, it's all done on Video Leap. If you guys have the ability to make these videos, keep them short, tight, keep them factual, so that way there's a ton of information, pack them out there, and I'm going to report on them, and I'll blow this shit up. It's embarrassing that people like myself, I go to Guatemala, I come back with fucking hard drives of offshore bank accounts of somebody who's not even fucking relevant. Like Todd Robinson, who the fuck was this guy? He's some gay, short, midget little black dude who's a raging alcoholic and a faggot, right? And I come back with this dude's offshore bank accounts and then evidence of a declassified, well, now it's declassified. I don't know if it was. I put it out there on the internet anyways. I published it on Substack, but it was like basically they're Guatemala's equivalent of their secret service, right? So the president of Guatemala, after the regime change failed and Todd Robinson worked with this little this fucker who's now fled to Guatemala or fled to Colombia, and he's running like the Colombian military, Ivan Blanquez, right? He was running basically Guatemala's version of the FBI. FBI. So in 2003, our government forced Guatemala to sign this treaty, which then it was like an anti-corruption treaty, and it forced Guatemala to create basically their version of the FBI. But no, there was no checks and balances throughout the Guatemalan government. Nobody oversaw this. So what they did is they weaponized it and they used it to go after anybody, not the political opponents, but they used it to go after anybody, doctors, lawyers, media outlets, anybody that was donating to the Republican cause or their version, their right-wing cause. They started going after them for like made up tax fraud and tax laws. And they were putting these people in prison without a trial for like 2 years, to the point where some doctors were literally killing themselves. These were like good people. They've never done anything but donate some money to the wrong political party. And this version of the FBI was weaponized to basically take out their political donors. And then they tried to use it. They went and they kidnapped basically the vice president's son-in-law and his wife were living here in America, because once Guatemala is kind of a corrupt country, right? So like if you're the vice president, you're like, yeah, I'm going to get my family out of Guatemala, let them go into America. They go to our colleges over here. They have bank accounts over here, and they can kind of start a decent, normal life over here, which is what any father wants for their children, right? So they were over here. Our FBI basically set them up. They went and planted a gun in this kid's house, and then they raided his house. They had him trumped up. We're going to spend like 15 years in prison. And they called up the vice president, which also denied or basically turned down their offer to carry out a regime change. And basically they were going to take out the president, and they wanted him to stage like a coup and then basically overthrow the president of Guatemala. And they were going to install this vice president who was then going to work for our government, basically. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. So they went and they literally kidnapped his kid, or his son-in-law, and his daughter. They arrested them both at one point. They ended up letting his daughter go. But his son-in-law did like 3 years in prison, and he ended up saying basically no. So after the failed coup, when our CIA failed to overthrow the president of Guatemala, the president's like, well, hey, there's this ambassador here, and I'm getting a lot of shit. I'm hearing a lot of bad things about this ambassador, Todd Robinson. Like, hey, we should investigate this guy. So he orders his version of like his intelligence agency, or his CIA, or his not a CIA, but his version of basically Secret Service, to do this in-depth deep dive into Todd Robinson. So while he's doing it, he comes back with this report, and I published it over my Substack. This Todd Robinson dude's a raging alcoholic, right? There's never a party where he's not drunk, right? Every meeting, everything that he does, always revolves around drinking. He's a faggot. He's got 2 boyfriends. He's got a boyfriend inside the U.S. Embassy, and he also has a boyfriend inside like the Guatemalan embassy or the Guatemalan government somewhere. When this guy's driving a car, if he gets a phone call, he forces everybody to get out of the vehicle. It doesn't matter if it's 110 degrees down in Guatemala. Everybody's got to get out of the car, and they have to stand outside in their business suits for basically up to an hour while this guy sits in his car, has some drinks in the back seat, and talks on the phone to whoever. It doesn't matter what the phone call's about. They all have to get out of the vehicle. Then he starts throwing these parties, and he's having these basically Diddy-style freak-offs. And he didn't call them Diddy-style freak-offs. He called them 2 to 3 day parties. But, you know, like you're a kid, you're playing Donkey Kong as a kid. You're like, I'm going to pull an all-nighter. I'm going to stay up for 2 days. The next day after your all-nighter, you're on the couch at like noon because you can't keep your eyes open longer than 30 hours, right? Like nobody fucking goes and has a party that lasts 2 to 3 days unless there's drugs involved. So you can obviously assume that there's drugs involved. Now, in Guatemala, the age is consent's 14. So Todd Robinson is literally having the cartels, who he's in bed with, deliver 12 to 14-year-old boys to his parties. Well, one 12-year-old boy at one of Todd Robinson's parties gets sodomized so bad that he gets hospitalized. Now, this all comes out in this report, right? And this actually report was right prior to the coup. And they never knew why, like what triggered the coup, why our government was so hell-bent on overthrowing Jimmy Morales, who was the president at the time of Guatemala. But it was because he ordered this investigation into Todd Robinson. That's what triggered it. Like, that's how in-depth and connected all this shit was. Then I get called, this fast forward to like 2024, when the Attorney General of Guatemala raids the foundation Save the Children for trafficking children, right? This is a big international story. It's in my documentary. I documented and reported on the whole thing. Robbie Starbuck was the one who actually broke this story. So over the course of the last 4 years, at the border, right? Many people heard about the 350,000 missing migrant children. Well, there was actually 452,121 migrant children that arrived at our border over that 4-year period, which is an insane fucking number. Think about the big house and the stadium in U of M. It's like one of the largest stadiums in America. It sits 100,000 people. Fill that 4.5 times over, and that's how many migrant children arrived at our border. Now, the craziest part is that they were coming from from 180 different nations. But out of that 180 different nations, 3 nations made up for a vast majority of that. 42 to 48% of the children that arrived at our border came from one country, and that's Guatemala. 190,000 children were smuggled and kidnapped out of Guatemala, trafficked to our border where our government received them, took possession of them, then vetted the adult that they delivered them to, and then fucking lost them, okay? Out of that, that's 190,000 children in a country with a population size of 15 million. That's roughly, it's 2.79% of their entire child population just fucking vanished. And then so the Attorney General starts digging into this, right? And this is how I got invited to Guatemala by the Attorney General, because all these 25 children a day right now, there's roughly 25 Amber Alerts that go on every day in Guatemala. That's how big of a crisis this is. And the kids just vanish and they're never seen again. Well, she gets wind that these NGOs that are operating in both Guatemala and in America are trafficking children. So she reaches out to our government. She contacts James Comer. She contacts the House Oversight Committee. She contacts Chris Wray, Merrick Garland, and the list goes on. Even Ken Paxton, right? Ken Paxton's like the most pro-Israel attorney general in the world, right? And Ken Paxton's supposed to be the good guy. We've all been brainwashing to believe that fucker is the good guy, right? Well, she's contacting Ken Paxton saying, hey, I got intel right now. We can do a joint raid on all 5 of these NGOs. And she's got like rock solid evidence enough where she raided them in Guatemala. And she's reaching out to Ken Paxton for 2 weeks. These letters go unanswered. Like, this was the holy grail of opportunities for our government. And this was under the Biden administration, right? So she could have, or he could have, literally did a joint raid with the Attorney General of Guatemala and raided all these NGOs and rescued all of these children. At that time, there was only 85,000 children, I believe, at that time had been reported that were missing, and now there's 350,000 missing, right? So Ken Paxton's failure to do anything and raid these NGOs, because when she raided them, she found out that obviously they were trafficking children, and it was the NGO specifically Save the Children that was operating in both Guatemala and in America, and that they were trafficking children from Guatemala to America. They were being processed at our border, and then our government was taking possession of them, and they were putting them into facilities where they were being raped by the employees at these facilities. Okay, so craziest part about this story, I'm going to land it right here, is 10 days after that, Anthony Blinken takes a surprise trip to Guatemala, right? So this is not a planned trip. This is Anthony Blinken flies down and holds a press conference with the president of Guatemala, who we also installed. So now fast forward a couple of years later, we finally rigged their election in 2023. So January 1st of 2024, in comes the installed president that our government, our CIA intelligence agencies, and USAID installed, Bernardo Alvaro. So he gets down and holds a press conference. Now, this president runs his entire campaign on, I'm going to basically get the Attorney General of Guatemala fired. Just like President Trump and Letitia James, how she ran her entire campaign on, I'm going to fucking get Trump. He runs his entire campaign, I'm going to fire this Attorney General. Well, the Attorney General is the only one with the power to investigate the child trafficking or the rigged elections. So 10 days after Save the Children gets raided, Blinken takes a surprise trip down there, and he holds a press conference where he congratulates the president on what a great job he's doing exposing this corruption. And but Guatemala's got this huge corruption problem, and there's all this money, billions and billions of dollars are about to come flowing into Guatemala. Anthony Blinken just knows this. He's like the investment guru. He just knows that billions of dollars are going to flow into Guatemala. But if he doesn't get rid of that corruption problem, meaning if you don't get that Attorney General fired, well, you're probably not going to see any of that money, right? Does it sound familiar, like Biden in Ukraine? Well, why does it sound familiar? Why would Blinken take a surprise trip to Guatemala? Oh, because Jill Biden, the president's wife, the first lady of America, in 2017 was nominated as the chair of the board of directors Save the Children. So our president was sitting on the board of directors of an organization that was literally trafficking roughly, quite possibly 190,000 fucking children out of Guatemala into America. And I come back with Todd Robinson's offshore bank account records where he's moving millions of fucking dollars across borders, millions of dollars worth of stocks, millions of dollars from Bahamas to Guatemala to this bank over in another country to America, all of these offshore bank accounts. And I give this all to the FBI, and this guy's still fucking walking free. So like when I say that America's fucking cooked, I mean, it doesn't matter what we uncover, it doesn't matter what we expose, it doesn't matter. Like this is why I'm so adamant about this Charlie Kirk thing, because for once we have like the entire fucking country paying attention to one story, and that story is Charlie Kirk. And if there's ever an opportunity where we can all come together and say like, listen, like let's focus focus right here, right now on this story and not let it go. No matter how hard we have to go, no matter what we have to do, we cannot let this Charlie Kirk investigation die. Because if we do, it is literally going to be Epstein, and then Charlie Kirk will be the next one, and the next one will come, and the next one will come, and the next one will come. And I'm telling you that from fucking experience. Like, I went there, I got the information, I got the intel, I got literally offshore bank account records on the fucking thumb drive, along with a million other fucking reports from inside the internal government of Guatemala about how corrupt our ambassadors were, and nothing fucking happens. And I'll kind of land it there, and I'll pass it over to Sam. Sam, good to see you, brother. Did you get to finish watching Candace's show today?
Yeah, I speed watched it on 1.7 speed, so I could get through it. But no, incredible breaking story. I'm still trying to make sense of it. I'm looking at the notes, and it looks like it. I don't know what you've already covered, Ryan. Have you already covered?
No, I was waiting for you. I was just going to kind of shitpost until you got in there. I figured you were going to break it down for us.
So for I'm sure many of you have watched it, but just for those of you who haven't, let's just do a quick summary. Basically, this Egyptian military plane is actually two Egyptian military planes. So that's number one. If there's not one Egyptian military plane, there's two of them, okay, with similar tail numbers. But there's actually two of them. That's number one. Number two, going back to, it looks like 2023, there seems to be a pattern of these planes shadowing TPUSA events. I'm looking at 2023. It looks like the trend is not super powerful in 2023, really picks up in 2024 and 2025. And as near as I can figure, there's just a lot of overlapping dates, and they don't always quite overlap the same. And it's not always Charlie Kirk TP USA events. Perhaps it's still very early and rough, but it looks like there's somewhere between 4 and maybe 6 or 7 coincidences. I'm not calling them coincidences, but coincidences where these planes are in the same city or in a city nearby, where Charlie Kirk or TPUSA are having some kind of event throughout 2024 and 2025. There's maybe like 5 or 6, perhaps 7. I don't have the official count here. 5 or 6. We'll just stay with 5 or 6 right now. Instances where these planes are overlapping with Charlie Kirk and TPUSA events. So that's number 2. And this event in Provo, the assassination in Provo, is one of them. Okay, it's one of them. So this is, of course, how Candace first got put onto this. And when she made a deal out of it a couple weeks ago, and she got instantly dogpiled for making the universal time code mistake. Right? She originally had mistaken that for Utah time as universal time code. And what she called this was a Snopes type debunking, where, there's a large story here and people just latch on to like a little piece of minutia to try to discredit the whole thing. And so this is what got her even more suspicious about it and caused them to start digging into this. And one thing led to another, and through a series of tips from people internationally, apparently one prominent tipster from, I think, Egypt, maybe, or somebody close to Egypt or in the know, gave her some very, very insider information about one of these planes. And that has led to the discovery of this second plane. And then that has led to the discovery of these 5 or 6 overlapping points where these planes are present in or nearby these TPUSA events over the last 2 years, including up until this assassination of Charlie Kirk. So that's the story as it's breaking. Alsace, Texas has dumped into the purple pill. If anybody hasn't looked, he's dumped down into the comments. He took screenshots and put them together in a document, so you can go look at that. And so if you have, flight tracking capabilities or interests or hobbies, some people do that. Or if you have access to flight radar, or there's another one, I can't remember what the other one's called. There's a couple services where you can go in and you can track planes, flights, and all of these things. If you have time, if you want to be of use, go start digging into this data and also digging into TPUSA events. Now, the other major leg, Ryan, that she was exposing in her story was just shady characters involved with TPUSA, and that seemed to be quote unquote Christian Zionists, but they also seem to be shady. Mega church pastors, this Sean Foyt guy, I'm not exactly sure what he was. Tyler Boyer. I was a little shady, or not shady, but I was a little uncertain as to whether Tyler Boyer is LDS. I think Candace insinuated he was, but I hadn't heard that before. So if somebody could double check that for me. But apparently, Tyler Boyer had a lot of power, and he was inserting a lot of people around Charlie in positions of authority. I think the insinuation, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the insinuation is he might have been gay or dallying with some of these people. Perhaps I thought I picked up on that insinuation. Of course, I was speed watching
Charlie?
it. What's that?
No, Charlie
Boyer.
or Tyler?
Tyler Boyer.
Oh.
Tyler
Okay,
Boyer.
okay.
And I'm not making an accusation. I am trying to report what I thought Candace might have been insinuating, but somebody can double check me on that. But it seemed like that's what she was insinuating, that there was something weird going on with him and maybe some of these people, perhaps of a sexual nature even, like, they were gay, or I'm not exactly sure. But I thought she insinuated...
Oh, I definitely think he's gay. Tyler Boyer, I think he's a fucking flaming homo. That's just my opinion.
Been a lot of allegations for years about just a lot of homosexuality within TPUSA. That these allegations have been around for a while. Of course, we know that Charlie brought in Rob Smith in the 2019 Groyper War tour, and he was openly gay. And there were many jokes for many years that TPUSA was just gay, because like somebody. And then, of course, Milo Yiannopoulos. Earlier this year, I believe, he was insinuating that there's somebody high level associated with TPUSA who's known to have gay sex with some of the younger men involved at these events. People being locked in their hotel rooms, just wild, flamboyant stuff. But, it's Milo, so take that with a grain of salt. That's what we thought at the time. But now that's looking to be maybe more credible. Now, with regards to the Sean Foyt guy who was involved with TPUSA Faith, who was involved in some of these events where these Egyptian military planes were shadowing, or perhaps shadowing, he was this year began to come under fire for credible accusations of embezzlement and funny business with the money. That came out in June of this year. I'm just getting you caught up on with what was going on Candace today. So now this leads, to the money story, the money angle, and there's this very credible accusation that Netanyahu dangled a bunch of money in front of Charlie, and that Charlie turned it down. And I don't know if we've covered that covered this angle on these spaces yet. But I know that I've been talking with people in the background about this, but I want to paint a picture for people, because this is how Jews operate. They think of this as a pincer movement, a double envelopment movement where Charlie's getting attacked from multiple directions. Okay, on one direction, his donors are applying pressure to him, and they're dropping out, like they're pulling their funding from TPUSA, right? And then you have people like allegedly Seth Dillon, Bill Ackman, Josh Hammer pressuring Charlie to get back on board with full Zionism support. And at the same time, some of these Jewish donors are pulling out. Now, while that's happening, while they're pulling their money and pressuring him, now comes Benjamin Netanyahu over here from a different direction, offering big money, that would basically double their operational budget, right? And Charlie turned it down. So you can see how perhaps an operation was unfolding. You're trying to corral Charlie Kirk. You're trying to get him back on your Christian Zionist plantation. You're trying to get him back on the plantation of full support for Israel, right? And do what we say and use the talking points we tell you, and stop platforming people like Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith. How do you wrangle Charlie? How do you get him back? Well, maybe you apply financial pressure. Maybe you pull funding over here on this side and then come swooping over here on the other side with other money, right? And you're trying to drive him like an animal, like a prey animal, into the waiting arms of Benjamin Netanyahu and other, big Jewish donors, right? Maybe you're running an operation on him. We're going to put him under financial pressure and financial strain, and then come swooping in to save the day, and he'll be forced to maybe say yes, or he'll be tempted to say yes. But of course he said no. Of course he said no. Now, then only just a few short weeks later, Charlie's digging into the finances. And he's like, whoa, the burn rate's way too high. Where's all this money going? What's going on? Right. So we could very easily surmise that, like, why is Charlie all of a sudden interested in money? Well, maybe it's because he's been losing all these Jewish mega donors at the same time that Israel's swooping in with also big offers of big money that he's turning down. So now all of a sudden Charlie's feeling some kind of financial pressure that he has not previously felt before. It's got his radar up, and he's like, holy crap, we got to shore up our finances, fill these gaps, or while we're trying to find new donors and new money to fill these gaps, we got to be cost conscious. This is normal stuff, right? We tighten our belts. We got, this is where somebody like Charlie, who's running this huge organization, which apparently he wasn't able to keep an eye on every corner. And so he was relying on people around him to do this. But now Charlie himself, up until this point in time, perhaps has not been, so worried about the money. But now he is, right? Because financial pressure, losing the donors, saying no to Israel. Now he's like got to take a kind of a closer look at it, a more keen interest. And he announces, our burn rate's way too high. Where's all this money going? Let's have this Doge department. I'm going to establish this Doge department. This was a memo, I think on or around September 2nd or 3rd, just a week or so before the assassination. He announces this Doge thing. Now, I need people to run this down too. I don't know if it's been run down. Is that audit still going on? Is it still happening? Is this internal Doge team still a thing? Or is it been backburnered or disbanded? I think this is something that we need to know or verify. So if you're involved with TPUSA or have connections or know something or have seen something on the timeline, we need that information. Because so much of these crimes, there's a money component. Sometimes the money itself is the crime. Sometimes it's just sort of the red flag that there's other crimes involved. But there's always a money component. That's why they say follow the money. And so that's not to say that things are always just about money. But even the crimes that aren't about the money have a money component. So you can sort of, if you follow money trails, it can lead you to what the other crimes are that are non-monetary crimes. So, but, apparently there's a lot of money flowing through TPUSA, mysterious money. There's people that are closely associated with it that are being credibly accused of, embezzlement or funny business. So there could be financial crimes going on. Candace was insinuating perhaps there was money laundering for the cartels even. Okay. And because Israel is and world organized Jewry is wrapped up in the cartels and drug trafficking and human trafficking. So I'll give you guys a little tip, and this ties in with one of the things that Ryan's very passionate about, human trafficking. We know that the Mossad has been training the Sicarios, the assassins for the cartels. We know that there's a close association there. We know that the cartels helped install Claudia Sheinbaum, the Jewish president of Mexico. Tim Ballard has been coming up. Well, his Operation Underground Railroad that busted up that child trafficking ring in Colombia, that's the subject of the movie Sound of Freedom, that was a child trafficking ring being run by Israelis. Okay, and you can go look that up. I think the Times of Israel was even reporting on that. It was an Israeli child sex trafficking ring. So the drug cartels, the human trafficking ring, the international Jewish mafia in Israel are up to their eyeballs in that. They're trafficking women from Ukraine into Israel and who knows where else. So you go read about that too. So this same tribe of people is wrapped up in a lot of this stuff. Obviously, they're wrapped up in TPUSA. There's money running through TPUSA. You have Egyptian military planes shadowing these TPUSA events, what's going on. That's sort of the picture that Candace was painting, and I've sort of filled in some, started putting flesh on those bones myself. But Ryan, that I think gets the audience caught up with what they missed today. And there are several now fruitful areas of research, right? Like for people to be digging into these different people involved. Who are they? What associations do they have? How does it all tie together? And it really just underscores what we've said. this case is like drinking from a fire hose. And it's hard, it's hard for any one person to get their arms around it and to be able to, be a master and commander of every aspect of this crime. And Candace, she's doing her best, but like we can't expect her to shoulder the entire load. And she's operating off of tips too. She's getting tips from people. So, if you have time, if you have resources, start digging into these things. Now, another thing I can say, and I don't know if we have Blake up here, if he's going to come in here, because I know he's been doing work on this as well. We still have this other spy plane that did the weird aerial maneuvers around UVU the morning of the assassination, the morning and the afternoon of the assassination. Tail number 10 N1098L. It's a Bombardier jet out of LaSalle, that's owned by LaSalle Air out of Manassas, Virginia. It's in Northern Virginia, just on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. It's part of a program to turn these Bombardier jets into aerial reconnaissance and electronic surveillance spy platforms. With even the capability eventually of conducting drone operations. Now, in my own studies, I've been tracking this for a while now myself, haven't posted about it, but I can tell you that it appears as though this particular plane that did the weird maneuvers in Provo, Orem that day does not have the full electronic spy drone operation surveillance package installed. It doesn't have the modifications. It appears to be some sort of R&D platform that hasn't been fully decked out. Now, here's what I can tell you about that plane from my own research. So everybody knows that on September 10th, the day of the assassination, that it flew from Fort Bliss, Texas to Kalispell, Montana. And on its way, it descended to just a couple hundred feet above ground, did a circle around Utah Lake, at basically its stall speed, like a minimum speed required to stay aloft. It's like, I think it's about 125 knots. It comes down from 38,000 feet to just a couple hundred feet above the deck, and does this circle around Utah Lake, which it passes within like a mile of UVU. And it does this the morning of the assassination, before the assassination, and it continues up to Kalispell, Montana, where it lands, basically turns around, takes off, comes back, and on the way back, does the exact same maneuver again. Descends from 38,000 feet, goes down to a couple hundred feet above the hard deck, does this loop around the lake, passes within a mile or so of UVU, and this is like 20 minutes after the assassination now at this time. It's like 20 minutes after the assassination, and then it climbs back up and continues on to Texas. Now, everybody knows about that, or a lot of people know about that, but here's what you don't know. The day before, it did the same flights from Fort Bliss, Texas to Kalispell, Montana, over Utah and back on the night, the day before. But it did not do the descent loop pattern. It stayed at altitude, at high altitude the whole way. That was the day before. Was this some dry run for what they were going to do the next day? But it gets more interesting because, so just to catch you up, so it did those maneuvers on the 10th. It did the same flight path without doing the special maneuver just the day before. Nobody's talking about that. Maybe it's a dry run for something. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's nothing. But what's interesting about that is it hadn't ever done those flights back to back before. And in fact, the previous time it made a flight from Texas to Montana, the last time it did that was on August 8th. On August 8th, a month previous, August 8th, it flew from Texas to Montana and back, but it did not go over Utah. Okay, it went over Colorado. And then it did the same thing again on August 12th, up to Montana from Texas and back on August 12th. All right. And I think on one of the legs of those flights, it did an interesting loop maneuver over Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So, and then previous to that, the only other time it made that flight from Texas to Montana was on June, I believe, 18th. And that's the farthest I've been able to go back. So you have this plane, this spy plane, it's part of this 80s spy program, flew from Texas to Montana on June 18th. Then on August 8th and 12th, it does the Texas to Montana and back run on both of those days, but it doesn't go over Utah either time. Then on September 9th, it does go over Utah on that round trip flight, but it doesn't do the low looping maneuver until the next day, September 10th, the assassination day, where it does those low looping maneuvers. And since then, I don't know if it's done that flight again. So now Blake Bednar, he went and got footage of that jet on the ground in Texas, and it does not appear to have the drone modifications and the advanced radar and tracking and surveillance systems externally yet. It hasn't been decked out with the full package. So it's part of the program. We don't know what capabilities it has, but it is definitely part of the program, and we don't know a lot about it. We don't know who flies it. We don't know. I'm not sure we know who the crews are yet, who've been on it, what they've been doing. But I do think it's interesting that it did that exact same flight path over Utah the day before, and it had never done that flight path before. It had never done that flight path before, except for the day before the assassination and on the day of the assassination. That's the only time that I've been able to find that's ever done that flight path. So what does that mean? I think there's still, I don't think we can discount this plane, especially since it has been discovered that its unique tail numbers have been the subject of these Google searches during this summer, this July, August time window. Like somebody in Israel, very interested in this plane, and maybe even DC. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. Maybe somebody could research that for us. Maybe it's on Ian Carroll's master spreadsheet. But these are all the interesting things that are happening. And again, if you have access to these, if you're an aviation enthusiast, if you have access to this data going back further than June of this year, if you have the ability to discover, more about this plane, we need more answers. If at the very least to eliminate it as a person of interest, so to speak. Like, is this plane a person of interest or not? Right now, it's a person of interest. Does it mean anything? Maybe it doesn't mean anything. We just don't know. We need more data. We need more information. We need more insights into this. So I guess that's the theme of today, Ryan. Like, we got all these planes, we got all these military planes that are in Provo and Orem the day of the assassination, the day before the assassination, the day of the assassination. Why are all these interesting spy planes and military planes, coinciding with the assassination? What's going on? And then we have the TPUSA angle, the money angle, and then of course the other thing is this new apostolic restoration evangelical movement that the McCoys seem to be a part of. There was a Russian component also, apparently. Tyler Boyer, I guess I learned he speaks Russian, and he's got like a degree in Soviet studies, and so does the president of UVU. She's got like a degree in Soviet studies or something. And then, of course, Mikey McCoy's wife, Elizabeth, is Russian or possibly Ukrainian. Her maiden name is Kravchuk, and her parents came from Russia or Ukraine. So then there's that angle as well. And and we know that Charlie was coming out very high for a while now, since I think the winter of 2023. Charlie has been very outspoken against the Ukraine war. And we have noted previously in these spaces that this is one of the things that was placing Charlie at odds with the Republican Party, right? We know that he was at odds or becoming at odds with Israel and the pro-Israel lobby and the Zionist movement. We know that. But what we haven't talked about a ton, we've touched on it, is that he was becoming even more, he was also becoming at odds with the GOP, the mainstream GOP. Charlie was speaking out against Ukraine and the Iran war, which are these neocon wars with these large Jewish components. And he was very outspoken against them. But the GOP loves funding Ukraine, loves taking the war to Iran. So that placed Charlie really out of step with mainstream Republican Party. He was against the mass immigration and open borders, and he was specifically advocating for a total immigration moratorium. He was very explicit and outspoken about that. He wanted a total immigration moratorium. Well, that also is completely out of step with the mainstream GOP. He was also adopting a Christian identitarianism, a Christian nationalism, and was also starting to speak, starting to be more honest about, the white roots of America, and was even what I would call establishing a proto-white nationalism or proto-white identitarianism. He hadn't really gotten all the way on that yet, but he was starting to be more honest and open and upfront about that, having that conversation, which again, completely diametrically opposed to the mainstream Republican Party. And of course, the mainstream Republican Party is heavily funded and controlled by the Jewish lobby as well. So that's kind of intertwined. So you have Charlie Kirk running afoul of the Israeli lobby. He's getting way out of step with them. He's getting ever more out of step with the GOP, who have been natural allies to this point, right? Like Mr. GOP, Mr. Funder, Mr. Voter Drive, helping deploy assets and resources to these battleground states in the election last year to get Trump elected. So Charlie, no question, has been a big ally, powerful ally of the Republican Party, but he's kind of getting out of step with them too. So we have to ask ourselves, who's the regime in power? Kash Patel, who's the regime in power? Who, if there is a cover up here, which we all think there is, well, it's the regime elements of the regime are helping cover this crime up. What's the motive for the regime to cover this up and to be involved even perhaps? Why? What motivation does this regime have? Right? Well, maybe it's similar motivations that Israel has. Charlie's not our guy anymore, and he's getting big and powerful. And I learned today that there are 650,000 TPUSA former donors and supporters of TPUSA. 650,000. Okay, that's current and former supporters of TPUSA. 650,000. Okay. In an organization that Charlie is basically controlling, he's steering that ship. He's controlling the direction. He's deciding what talking points are getting platformed, right? And I mean, that's real political power. He's developing a media operation, right? Podcast show. He's helping establish other people in that space. He's developing a massive fundraising network. He's developing ground campaign operations. He's getting thousands of chapters at the high school, college level. I mean, he's running a massive, basically, he's got his own AIPAC / Republican Party, all plus media operation, all wrapped up in one, in a thing called TPUSA under his direction. And he's basically going off the reservation. He's leaving the Israel cause behind, and he's kind of leaving the mainstream GOP movement behind. And the mainstream GOP movement and the pro-Israel cause, they're joined at the hip, and Charlie's leaving them both. And, I can't help but see perhaps collusion going on here, Ryan. Anyway, so it's a big picture.
Yeah, no, Sam, he took over. He replaced the GOP. He's like, oh yeah, you want me to run the GOP? No, I'll create my own, which is that's their kingmaker organization. That determines who is going to be the next president. And Charlie built an organization that could be better than that.
Could be better. And if you're the GOP, you're not liking that. If you're the intelligence agencies that try to control elections, right, that are trying to, can we be honest that the intelligence agencies try to control elections and try to steer the countries? Can we be honest about that? If you're an intelligence operation, if you're the intelligence people trying to control elections, control outcomes, control candidates, control the money, you reported this week on Arctic Frost was basically the FBI trying to do damage control in the stolen election of 2020, right? We had these FBI agents under Operation Arctic Frost. And by the way, for people who don't know, Arctic Frost is an orange variety, and it looks kind of like a wrinkled up orange. So and it was an operation to basically hamstring Trump and his efforts to investigate the election fraud of 2020 and his allies that were looking into the fraud of the election of 2020. They codenamed this operation Arctic Frost, a wrinkled orange. So it's Like, could we be any less subtle, about what's going on here? So you have an intelligence operation that was basically kneecapping Trump and his allies from looking into the stolen election of 2020, right? And then you have Kash Patel. So again, Ryan, we get to this case is so huge with so many moving parts. You have Kash Patel actively, it looks like he's actively covering up this investigation. And he's also promoted at least 5 FBI agents who led the Arctic Frost operation against Donald Trump. And something that you didn't bring out in your videos, that at least I didn't see it, Ryan. What's interesting, and we've covered this in this space before, that Kash Patel fired a bunch of FBI agents at the beginning of August, at the same time that he replaced the former head agent at the Salt Lake field office, Matta Syed, right? She was, we know that she was replaced in early August with this new guy, and his first big case was the assassination. And people have been like, well, why did he replace Matta Syed? And through our research, we've been able to discover that was at the same time that he fired a bunch of FBI agents who had been involved in investigating Donald Trump and his allies and supporters from the J6 event. And so this was seen as retribution, as punishment for being involved in hurting Donald Trump through the J6 event and its subsequent aftermath and investigations by the FBI. That's what we knew coming prior to a few days ago, prior to these Arctic Frost revelations, is that what we knew was that Kash Patel was firing agents that were involved in the J6 investigations and the J6 prosecutions and the J6 operations against Donald Trump and his allies. They were firing those people in retribution. However, now we've discovered that, he fired some of them, but he actually promoted these other guys who led it, So that's sort of odd. Why are they firing these guys over here for being involved and promoting these other guys who led Arctic Frost over there? Like, that's sort of weird. So that's another looming cloud, especially now that we have this revelation that Joe Kent, who is a Tucker Carlson ally, by the way, he works for Tulsi Gabbard for the Office of Director of National Intelligence. He's the Director of National Intelligence. He's in charge of coordinating between the 15 different intelligence agencies. Okay. And he works for her. Well, they got wind that there might be foreign involvement in the Charlie Kirk assassination. And so he was requisitioning files and information and wanted to look into that. Well, Kash Patel got wind of that and went apeshit and went ballistic, went nuclear on that. They had this meeting and there was like a big blow up over this. Kash Patel was like, hey, you're going to hurt the investigation if you look in this. So he's saying that, like, if the Director of National Intelligence, for her job is to coordinate between all the intelligence agencies, you're gonna hurt our investigation. Which, why is the FBI investigating a non-federal crime in the first place? You're gonna hurt our investigation if you get the entire intelligence community involved. Well, how is that going to hurt the investigation if we get the entire intelligence community involved, all resources involved brought to bear on this investigation? How's that going to hurt the investigation, Kash Patel? So again, we come to the regime. Elements in the regime are perhaps could be Israeli angle in this. We have whatever the evangelical NAR, New Apostolic Reform movement, these Christian Zionist pastors. You have the perhaps a Mormon, some elements of LDS members who are in the CIA or something, and some of these other shady LDS characters perhaps involved in sarcastic characters on the event that day. Like, what does it all mean? How does it all fit together? You begin to grasp the magnitude, the enormity of this cover up. And so when Candace Owens says everybody betrayed Charlie, you start to get the idea of literally everybody. Like, everybody's got a piece of this. People around him in TPUSA, people in the evangelical movement, intelligence assets that happen to be Mormons in Utah, Kash Patel, the FBI, perhaps people in the Republican Party. This is another angle. Ron Owens reported, in an article, I think a week or two after the assassination, that it was being openly discussed amongst Senate Republicans that many of them thought Israel had a hand in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But none of them have come forward. Where are they? And he was not the only person to report this. Other people have reported that they've heard the same thing, that in Republican circles, they were discussing possible or probable Israeli involvement or suspected Israeli involvement. We know Charlie Kirk himself said, like, that if I go against Israel, they might kill me, right? So, like, where are these people? They know something. Everybody's keeping their mouth shut. Nobody's talking. Nobody's saying anything. Nobody's getting on board here. But it's so, when Candace says everybody's betraying him, yes, his allies in the Republican Party, his allies in the evangelical movement, his allies, in the Jewish lobby, his donors, like TPUSA leadership. Nobody seems to have any curiosity whatsoever for this case, which seems to be massive. Like, there's a lot to be curious about, and nobody's at all curious about any of it. And Andrew Colvin, right? We know that he at least suspected, that there might be a foreign element angle to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. That's why he sent those group text messages to the FBI, like literally the day of, hours after the assassination. He forwarded those by his own admission after Candace outed it, after Candace got that leak. Then he admitted, yeah, it's true, and I sent those to the FBI. So even he suspected possible foreign involvement from our friends across the sea. Now, why isn't he more forthcoming right now? We don't know. These are just so many questions. And then I guess the last thing that just popped into my head, Ryan, we learned that Mikey McCoy was just promoted to be Charlie's chief of staff just in January of last year, January of 2024. And his dad obviously is very involved in what's going on here. We know his dad has these intelligence ties or these Army PSYOP information warfare ties. But Mikey's only been the chief of staff since January of 2024. And I have alleged in this space previously, and I alleged it again on the timeline yesterday in one of my replies to Candace, that I believe that obviously there was a flurry of activity after the TPUSA event in July with Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith. And she thinks that, that the decision to kill Charlie resulted from then or happened shortly thereafter. And I agree with her. But what I think is more of like a final green light or a final go signal, because I contend that this plot was hatched against Charlie. And I've said this in these spaces and in tweets that I think that it was hatched, or the beginnings of this idea were hatched or proposed perhaps as early as late fall 2023 or early winter 2024, maybe at the latest spring 2024. That's when I, through my own research, had developed the operating hypothesis that that's when maybe the beginnings of this assassination plot were hatched. And if we go back and look at this flight data, that's when the flights started shadowing Charlie Kirk and TPUSA events as well. So I think that is another intersecting line of evidence for my hypothesis. So a lot of information. You guys begin to grasp the enormity of this case. So many moving parts, so many opportunities for citizen journalists to look into things, to dig into things, to find data, to find information, articles, associations. You have talents, computer talents, forensic accounting, time on your hands, aviation enthusiasm, so many areas need contributions now. So with that, Ryan, I'll kick it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Sam. That was such a, you don't ever skip anything. And I love that, because a lot of people are just kind of now even tuning into this or might have missed something. You definitely go through it.
Well, Maze, I'm so sorry. I forgot one important detail. We've now also discovered that the request for the UVU event came in mid-July. Right around, right after, it looks like right after this TPUSA event, that's when the request went into UVU from TPUSA to have an event at UVU in September. It came in mid-July. Another interesting data point from that mid-July timeline.
That is very interesting. Well, thank you so much. Let's tap in with some of the hands that are up here. I also wanted to give a shout out to Destiny and welcome her to the stage, as well as Santino. And we have B Striker up here and the proxy and Naga, of course. But yeah, Timmy, I saw your hand go up. Go ahead. And
I saw you just said proxy. I was just going to ask if he didn't have a mic, if you could pass him one, because that was all I was trying to get the attention for.
Okay, well, yeah, he's up here. I do see Naga's hand up. I'll go to Naga now, and then I'll check in with Proxy to see if he's got something. Go ahead, Naga.
Yeah, so I have two things. The first one is I found out last night that Erica Kirk was married before to somebody named Derek Shelsvig with a CH. I think it's interesting that they don't want us to know about that because I mean,
Shelsvig, Naga Shelsvig or Shelsberg?
Shelsvig, it's CHELSVIG.
And you have a rock solid ironclad source for that?
So there's news sources. There's articles about it from October 15th from several places, and I'll just say alleged. It's alleged, but there are articles dipping into it, trying to figure out what's going on with that. And then the second thing that I have, and I do have evidence of this, like for sure. 2 days ago, John Mappin, interestingly enough, posted that he has a biography coming out about him. That they started, the guy started looking in and making this biography in August of 2025, which is really interesting. And the publication date isn't announced yet, but it's coming soon. So I don't know if anybody knows about writing books, but that's an insane fucking turnaround. Insane. Almost like impossibly insane. So that's very interesting. And I want to read like a couple sentences from the announcement, because it's basically sets him up as this like savior figure of Western civilization, which is fascinating. Sorry, I'm pulling it up. It says, Irina and I have never agreed to a biography before, but this summer in August of 2025, this Mike Fairclough, the respected British author, started working on this book. After Charlie Kirk's assassination on September 10th, the historic relevance of the book, what is about, and our discussions together took on a whole new significance. So that's a big selling point, is his relationship with Charlie Kirk. But yeah, it sets him up as like a savior for Western civilization, and the sentences after that.
Thank you so much, Naga. You know, I can't lie, like a lot of people hit me up with this gossip. I mean, over a picture. I mean, I get it. Maybe it was a little bit intimate, but about Erica and JD Vance. I am curious.
Maze, get you, for the men out there, get you a woman that holds you like Erica Kirk holds JD Vance, right? I'm sorry, listen, I'm not accusing Erica of anything. I just want to be clear, and people, you should know that by now. I'm not accusing her of anything, but like, I just can't. It's such low-hanging fruit right there. I just had to take the cut. I mean, come on, right? Like,
yeah, man, she definitely was putting the fingers all in his hair, and I mean, everybody, like, you guys should see.
He had his hand on her like hip. She's wearing these tight leather pants. And I don't follow fashion Twitter. Has fashion Twitter weighed in on Erica Kirk's leather pants? Like, I don't know. But like, he had his hand like on her hip, and she had his hand up behind his head in his hair. And I'm just like, wow, you know, if you didn't know anything, this is like a married couple having a moment on stage. I mean, that's what it looks like, right? It's like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, the snapshot was, but I mean, when you see the whole video play out, it's so fast that it doesn't look like that. But then people were talking about some of the comments that she made And I don't really know too much about it. I was really busy, but I did think it was interesting. I'm pretty sure Destiny might have the tea on that, so we'll tap in with her in a minute. But let's go to the proxy. Welcome, proxy. Jumping in.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here again. I have a lot of respect for your digital time and space. I'll keep it brief. And I appreciate Naga for mentioning John Mappin, actually. That's exactly what I came here to do. And I also wanted to bring up another name worth investigating, which is Ali Alexander. He was one of the leaders for the Stop the Steal movement, and I think intimately connected to Turning Point. As a matter of fact, had some criminal involvement with Turning Point. Is currently under investigation, last time I heard. And as for a couple of good names, I was going to mention Derek Bros and this girl who goes by Rotting Jewels, because as taboo as it is to talk about the Mormon aspect of this, which is great that Candace mentioned it today. That's a huge amount of progress. I mean, what a spooky night for Mormons everywhere. And just to have the awareness on them. But Scientology also is a place, another cult looking into. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard, we know, was a Zionist himself and like all this stuff. But I think essentially what they're trying to do is turn America into Palestine. And I think all the evidence is there for it. And we have to start taking the situation seriously. And at the end of the day, it's not about like what color you are, what religion you are, anything like that. It's about a bunch of elderly men who vampirize the youth versus the rest of the world. And intelligence does not forgive, and it does not forget. And it's a bad day to be one of those dudes. So I suggest that if you are working for these vampires, you do what you can to put yourself on the right side of history, because the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice and freedom. And intelligence doesn't have any tolerance for this. Real intelligence.
Well, thank you, Proxy. I appreciate you. I did see B Striker. I did see your hand go up, but it looks like it's down now. Did you want to chime in before I tap in with Destiny? Okay. Well, let's go over to Destiny. Hi, Destiny. Oh, there you go. Go ahead. Hi, welcome.
Hey, welcome. Yeah, sorry, I'm handing candy out, so I'm bouncing between like handing candy out, being it's Halloween. Thank you guys for having me up. So, all right, I won't waste a lot of your time, but I'm in like asset management. I'm in one of the largest investment firms let alone the world, but the US for sure. And on the 30th, this is very related, I promise. One of our private bank managers,
30th
I can't say
September or October?
No, it's just October. It's
so
but it is related.
So literally yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah, you got it. Yep. He goes on and he says something about he's challenging the hedge fund managers because the hedge fund managers are talking about, let me get in another room, guys. Good old Halloween, right? So more or less, the hedge fund manager is like talking about Amazon's laying off 30,000 people, and we're gonna raise them to a buy. We think this is awesome, And there's other companies too. They're talking about we're gonna put them up to a buy, and we're reducing. Employees, we're reducing expenses, and promise this is related. Sorry, I'm running up downstairs handing out candy. So this one guy, the private bank manager, challenges them at the end. He says, how long can we keep doing this? As hedge fund managers promoting billionaires, globalists, right, to lay off American workers, right, where there's 30,000 here, 20,000 there, 10,000 there. And how long can we keep doing this? Is it going to be beneficial for the U.S.? Okay, so get this. This is on the 30th. So today, Amazon reports insane numbers. They're up 12, 11%. Look it up. The video is no longer available. I can't look it up. And he's on leave right now, mysteriously, for challenging the hedge fund managers, okay? So here's why this is connected, okay? The money it's globalist money. They don't give a shit about the US, you guys. They don't care about our employment. They don't care about us. They care about making money, staying in power. I can say a little bit more about the globalists, but I don't want to get too into that. They could literally park money in Sweden, Israel, China, zero F's given, and they can watch the US crumble. They make money when we sit and we watch, I'm going to say stuff, porn, we fucking do gambling, we do drugs, alcohol, we sit and watch sports all day, we're occupied, we fight amongst ourselves, the crime rate goes up, education is decaying, and especially all the blue states. That's what they want. They want us dumbified. And this is, I know it's a big thing, right? The only person that was standing in their way to challenge that, to rise people up, grassroots, was Charlie Kirk. He was the only person that was questioning things. He was saying, hold on a second, we're sending money for here for what? Especially, Sam, when you bring up the audit, he started like, hey, we want to know where our money's coming from because we don't want to be biased. That takes honor and respect. And I have so much respect for that man, even before he passed. And so I don't want you to think, oh, he got shot and now I respect him. No. I watched him for years, you guys. So there's something big going on, and I don't want you to think it's just. And here's another thing, Sam, and I love all how you dissect things so well. Why did they take him out publicly? If they really wanted to take him out, they could have. Are they trying to make a statement?
Yeah.
Are they trying
we covered this last week in one of our spaces earlier this week, or maybe last week. I can't remember now. But you do it for a couple reasons.
Let him cook.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Let him go.
Well, yeah, but like think about it, right? Like they want to make a statement, and now you have people swooping in afterwards. Oh, I'm going to do the tour with you. I'm going to do this. Ben Shapiro, Dinesh D'Souza, Glenn Beck, all these people that are like not going to challenge the system. They're going to run with it, And I used to love Glenn Beck too, and it's like the things he says are very soft,
sickening. He's sickening.
Yeah. 100%. And so I'm like, it's almost like you start to see things and you can't unsee it. You know what I mean, you guys, especially through asset management. And I'm kind of a sub whistleblower. I don't want you to think anything about what I do because I could lose my job. But like, I do see things. Where I work, I have to watch these morning meetings with thousands of advisors in private bank, right? And watching how they talk to each other, like, oh, we have our billionaires, they're worried about paying too much taxes, and oh, we don't care about beta and Sharpe ratios, and we don't care about GDP and unemployment. We just we need to shift away from U.S. dollar and shift to MSCI. Don't worry about the U.S. Let them decay. We can make money in China, in Philippines, developed markets, emerging markets. They literally don't care, you guys. People's portfolios are going to be just fine, but here in the U.S., ours, where our stock is Chipotle, which is a recent one that collapsed. Let's say our stock is Target. Let's say our stock is Cargill doesn't have stock. Let's say it's General Mills. Let's say it's 3M. Like these stocks are all decaying because they can't compete globally. And what happens when they decay? They lay off people and then close doors. And then let alone this, these big companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all their big paying jobs, they outsource, you guys. Multiply that over decades. This is not sustainable. And seeing this, the only guy that challenged it internally, now he's suddenly resigned, or on leave, I should say. He didn't resign. I don't want to use the wrong words. And they took his video down where he publicly called it out. It's really weird, you guys. I just want you to know, some of the stuff I see, you guys have the right to know it. This is legit. I'm not making it up. I'm not hyperbolic. I'm so glad you had me come up, but keep cooking, you guys. Keep going, man. I love it.
B, do you have another moment, or do you got to run?
No. Actually, my wife just got back with the kiddos, so she can do that candy handing. So go ahead.
All right,
go ahead. Yeah.
Are you familiar with? I don't know. This is right out of left field. But are you familiar? There was a story maybe about 2 years ago where I think Kari Lake, who ran for governor she ran for governor of Arizona. She ran for the Senate as well. I think in this latest election, she lost both times, but I think her campaign, they were alleging that there was massive cartel money laundering going through the mortgage market in Arizona. And it was being covered up by Katie Hobbs, the governor of Arizona, and other high level Arizona officials. Do you remember that? Or did you hear about that? This allegation that the cartels were laundering money through the Arizona mortgage market and banking market?
Yeah, I do hear a lot about that stuff. I can't confirm it. I'm in the Midwest, so Arizona is way out of my region that I cover, but I do know, and I had eyes on it. Kari Lake's fantastic. If you think about it, the rally she does, she should easily win governor. But then you have the gal that's Katie Hobbs is in charge of the elections, happens to win the election. That's kind of awkward, right? So, I mean, money wise, I can't prove anything, so I don't want to like elaborate.
This. Sorry, just to say, right. G, I can confirm this. I've raised assets for the past 20 years in mortgage-backed securities, and that's what I was laying out for you with the Pritzkers. Brian Stryker, I sent you a direct message. We got to talk about Aspen Institute. We got a lot of overlap.
Well, yeah, so Tim and B, so where I was going with this is Charlie was like, he was signaling that he was going to run for governor of Arizona. Like there were these rumors, like big rumors. And he's got a real shot because he's a hometown boy. He's got this major youth organization, basically an army, an election army to get himself elected. And he's going to go for governor of Arizona. And so like I'm seeing like these money laundering connections, the cartel connections that Candace, she was bringing out these connections today. And then it occurred to me while we're on this call right here just now, that there have been these major allegations of cartel money laundering that's being covered up by like literally the Arizona governor and high level government officials in Arizona. And
it's worse than that. Real quickly, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
I'll get you just straight to the point.
You talk. You take it.
You're also going ASU, who has the former chancellor of Columbia, what's his name, Michael something.
Michael Crow.
Yeah,
Michael Crow.
Yeah, so think about it. You're XYZ cartel kid. You went to the Ivy League school. You're friends with the investment committee. You're friends with the Pritzker kids. You launch a private equity fund or a mortgage-backed securities fund. Your dad donates anonymously $100 million to ASU. ASU then allocates it to your private equity fund. Now you have $10 million or 10 years of $100 million to replace and put it in companies and legitimize it. They did it. Jeffrey Epstein, it was like Liquid Trust that they found a few of his mortgage-backed securities things. Penny Pritzker did the blow up with Superior Bank. The mortgage-backed securities thing is totally connected to that because the cartels went in through the McCain Republicans. Then they shipped the shit right to Chicago. Chicago's where El Chapo's twins were, the money managers. And they were able to have all these phantom derivatives that they can kind of play around with and move money. But even more so, you had, after the great financial crisis, you had Dodd-Frank. What Dodd-Frank did was...
Bill Ackman, by the way, if I can just hit the
100%.
Does Bill Ackman... Like, does he intersect anywhere here?
I'll say it on recording. I've met him. He's a fucking piece of shit. Piece of shit, period. Fannie Freddie, he has a bunch of cheap shares on that. He made a bunch of money on the MBIA down short. The real brains at Pershing Square left to go work at Stanley Druckenmiller's seeded fund. Stanley Druckenmiller is, and I'm butchering it, is George Soros's partner. And Bill Ackman's a fucking schmuck that's just in the club. His wife got money from Jeffrey Epstein on the stem cell research. He just launched a SPAC. He's a fucking piece of shit, and I hope he's hearing this because I've been saying what a piece of shit he is. Just shut up and serve. I'm posting pictures of him with the tennis. But yeah, he needs to be investigated. He's all up in the administration because he's got a bunch of Fannie Freddie shares on the super cheap. So the way they slice and dice the great financial crisis downfall, some of the players got the mortgage-backed securities that they were able to buy 30 cents on the dollar. They only recuperated 70 cents on the dollar. Some of them got the insurance companies that they bought shorts on. That's what he did. And then he also got part of the Ponzi scheme, that Advent Healthcare or whatever, that he ended up getting a blow up on that one. But he's a piece of shit. He bankrupts companies. He does the activist stuff. And yeah, he's a Bolshevik also. Fuck him. Sorry. That's my feeling on him.
So I guess my point is like, this cartel money, this money laundering operation, which is certainly not limited to to the cartels.
They're all cartels, though. Remember, they're all cartels.
Right, exactly.
Banking
They're all
cartels.
Depends what you mean by cartel, right?
When I say the cartels, I mean the drug cartels, but of course there's the international Jewish mafia cartels. There's these financial cartels. There's a bunch of different cartels. But my point is they're all incestuously connected on these scams.
Oh, right? God, and all the LGBTQ churches, that have the construction going on, because then that's straight up out of the Blackstone Gangster Disciples in Chicago. That's why Larry Hoover went to jail.
BlackRock, Blackstone, State Street. You got it, 100%. He's on it.
No. I'm talking actually. There's a gang called Blackstone that was in Chicago, but yes, Blackstone and them also.
Oh, the real estate developers. Yep, they're huge.
But I'm talking about an all-black gang in the south side of Chicago. What they did was they converted to a church called the El Rukin Faith. Then they became a 501c4. They were able to launder drug money through the churches. So all these Judeo-Christian LBGTQ church community churches, they're money laundering central. Anonymous donation. You could donate $20 million to a community church, and then you can get overcharged on the construction. And you can also get all those migrant services to launder the money. There's no good thing from an anonymous donation.
Yeah. See, so again, we get the enormity and the magnitude of the moving parts of the possible moving parts of this case. You know, you can see how there would be many, many interested parties in taking out somebody like Charlie Kirk. And then who would we be willing to, look the other way, not say anything, keep their mouths shut afterwards, right? Like to your question about why take Charlie out publicly. Well, what I was going to say is I wasn't trying to shut you down. I was just agreeing with you. And we talked about it in a previous space where, number one, you want to send a chilling effect. You want to send a message, right? You don't want anybody else to step out of line, right? There's that. But you also want to create a moment of extreme public trauma that will yield energy for making moves and policy changes and initiatives, things that may be a crisis, basically manufacturing a crisis that you won't let go to waste, right? That's the famous line from Rahm Emanuel, right? Never let a crisis go to waste.
Mortgage-backed securities crisis. You might have missed it. I already connected him in the beginning of this.
Right.
Real quick, Sam.
Oh, nice.
Sam, you were talking also Arizona, but B, you might be able to talk about this. The assassination of the CEO of Blackstone, the BRIC, Blackstone Real Estate Income Fund. They made that look like some ex-NFL player with CTC who just so happened to shoot the woman that oversees $100 billion of mortgage-backed securities and multifamily development? No, not at all. She was teaming up, laundering money through all that shit, and she was on top of all these different community foundations. She was in compliance and operations at Goldman before that. That was sending a message to the mortgage-backed securities market, in my opinion.
Don't go looking into things. Don't go digging. It'll be bad for your health. Your long-term health outlook will go down if you go digging. Right? That's the message there.
100%.
All right. Well, I see Proxy's hand was waving and he flung it up. So go ahead, Proxy, and then we'll go to Tap In with Destiny. I'm coming to you next.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention briefly that the Mormons literally tried to Charlie Kirk me on a couple of occasions. I have like a 2-year police history with the Mormons, and they're actively hunting me right now. And so, hey, what's up, dudes? They haven't gotten me yet, and it's okay. I feel much better being brave and telling the truth.
If I may, what does that mean? The Mormons are hunting you. What does that even mean? Like,
well, yeah, I literally
you need to explain that to me.
I recorded my escape from a Mormon-led ranch on GoPro. And basically, I was like, did that really just happen? And their behavior has not gotten any less strange or more innocent since I left the ranch. In fact, they're doing everything they can to try to stop me and bait me into situations. Long story short, a weird guy invited me to stay there at the ranch for free, and it was a beautiful ranch with horses and cows on the Colorado River, and I was going to start a food forest and an eco village for young artists and make millions of dollars with a reality show at the same time. Perfect honeypot for a hippie like me. I'm a volunteer community gardener musician, right? And so it looked weird, it smelled fishy, but me being the kind of shaggy guy I am, I just had to find out what was going on, right? So I made it about a month before I ended up bolting out of the ranch in the middle of a meeting after hitting record on my GoPro because it had gotten so weird. And I was basically too fast.
What was weird? Why were you what? why were you bolting from this ranch?
Vague threats being made in Native American code talk. Like I said, it's a long story, but I have hundreds of witnesses, more than 100 witnesses, including 2 of my ex-girlfriends, and my mom, and all kinds of people in my life. And this place is open to the public still. There were children living there before I was there, so I'm still trying to find out if that family's okay, because I honestly don't even know yet. Because when I asked, apparently nobody knows. And so there's at least.
Well, I wasn't trying to digress. I guess, Ed, were you about to say something about before I asked the question?
No, that was just it. I am a targeted individual, like, by these people actively, and I have all the evidence for it. I'm ready to do a podcast about it, but I can't find a single journalist outside of one personal friend journalist who's willing to take the story. So I'm about to go public with it, but I'm looking for good journalists, lawyers, and a few cool dudes who are willing to maybe help my mom get my stuff back from the ranch next week. But that's it. Just wanted to mention that real quick.
Okay. Well, very interesting. So yeah, I wanted to come to you, Destiny, and thank you, Proxy. I wanted to come to you, Destiny, to see if you had anything. I know you've been following this and reporting on it as well, and then also to get the tea on what you think about about Vance, JD Vance, and Erica. They're saying that like she might be replacing his wife. It's so people on social media are just so funny. But what's your take, Destiny?
Well, I think, people on social media, they're definitely funny. But, the reality is JD Vance is 41. Erica this month, now that it's almost not midnight yet, sorry. In a day and a month, right? On the 20th, she'll be turning 37. So she's actually closer in age to JD Vance than she was to her own husband. If you're going to pick it apart, if you were, I'm going to say I always found it very strange that she was significantly older than Charlie Kirk. I think in the manosphere, it's quite common that men, especially over the age of 30, generally will more likely consider a much younger woman than an older one. It's not unheard of. My mother was 3 years older than my dad, but it's modern times. It's not as common. So it's maybe she's. She said she sees a lot of her man in JD, which is, if I was JD Vance's wife, I certainly would be stepping up my game at the gym this week, is all I'm going to say. You're competing against a beauty queen, bitch. Good luck. Just saying. And, people might
Destiny, are you going to be watching for Usha Vance public appearances and what she's wearing in the next
Yes, I will.
In the next
Yes,
few
I
weeks,
will.
right? Like, what's Usha Vance going to be wearing in public over the next couple of weeks?
I'm going to see if she brings out some Dolce & Gabbana or some Fendi to try to, counteract the other Dolce & Gabbana that, Kirk will be wearing. So,
or the Sydney Watson dress, maybe?
A what?
Sydney Sweeney, the Sydney Sweeney dress?
I don't think she's going to be that brave. Although you could probably get a couple plastic bags and do something very similar for much cheaper. But the clothing thing, I've taken a particular note of that just because of Erica Kirk's spending habits. And people called me shallow and called me a demon, told me to go kill myself. Horrible things just because I pointed out what she was fucking wearing. I was just like, I'm sorry, I know designer, and I just want to fucking just point out that that's a $6,000 dress, right? It's just interesting because it's not the choice of most grieving widows. I mean, other than Jackie Onassis, in her closet was already like a runway show anyways. She would have had to go out of her way to dress poorly. But one thing that I haven't stopped looking into that really irks me, and the whole Shelsvig, Derek Shelsvig, confirmed he does exist. And he's actually the exact same age as JD Vance, the person people are claiming Erica was married to. I haven't found any marriage records on him. I did check with Ancestry. I did check with White Pages. I did check actual confirmed sources, and I have not found any marriage or divorce records from Derek. I did find 13 different counts of criminal activity stretching back to 1997 for this first arrest for being a minor who possessed tobacco underage, right? That was, when he was a senior or junior in high school.
Can you verify for us, like, where's this story on this guy coming from? That Erica was married to this guy. Who's the source for this story?
It all erupted, according to my searches, it all erupted the same day, which was October 15th. I cannot find any source beyond or before that about them at all together. And I also have found nothing in Erica's history that suggests time in Iowa, which is where he's from. He's from Des Moines, Iowa.
So
here's why I asked. Here's why I asked, because earlier this year there were actual websites and stories going around that Kash Patel was married and that his current girlfriend now, Alexis Wilkins, like basically Kash cheated on his wife with Alexis and he left her for Alexis and that was all bullshit. It was all, there's like all these fake stories that were like, and people were posting about it. And it was totally bullshit fake. And I thought it, I kind of was like, I think that they planted these bullshit stories to discredit any sort of actual investigation into Alexis Wilkins and her background. Like poisoning the well with false
100%.
And so 100%. Like this kind of, to me, maybe I'm not saying it is, but it kind of smells like that, maybe, especially if there's not really any source and it doesn't look like it's like, is this a well poisoning operation? Is that what's going on here?
It seems as though that might be the case, and this is a common tactic that is usually deployed by entities like the NSA. People like to blame the CIA, but the NSA, they really like to have the dominance, especially when it comes to narratives, false narratives, or what they call decoy narratives. So it seems like a decoy narrative to me. Yes, the guy is in a reasonable age range for Erica, sure. He once had an address somewhere in Ohio, of which she's from, but she was a child then. There's just no other real connection. I mean, I even looked into his neighbors and his relatives, and I didn't find any overlap. And I just did that since the kid who spoke about it popped on here, because I hadn't heard of him before. So I was just listening to you guys, researching away, and as far as I could tell, it's a nothing burger, this Shelfig guy. And by the way, the whole claim that Erica Kirk was banned in Romania because of the activities that occurred at the military base with the children, that I know without even looking into it is patently false. And the reason I know that is because there's a reason nobody got busted in that entire crime syndicate. It's not because it wasn't real, and it's not because it didn't happen. The evidence, there's video, audio, testimonies, there's everything. I mean, what happened over there happened. But we had signed an agreement called a Treaty of Force with Romania a month after 9/11 that is still in force today, that says that if we have people over there in the military or associated with the military and they commit a crime, that there's nothing that they can do about it. We would have to be compelled to press the charges on our own people, which we refuse to do for that incident. So there's no reason she'd be banned if there's no criminal history to back that up. So that to me is another nothing burger to just add some, little sizzle to the story. And for the people out there that make up these fucking stupid fake narratives, or you just cling on to something, and I know it's you QAnon assholes out there, like, you stop. Like, it's hard to fuck enough without all the fake narratives and the decoy bullshit out there. But the thing I really want to continue focusing on is Lawrence Guinta, Guinta. That is Erica's stepdad, and nobody ever talks about him. And he's been working with both her mom and dad at AZ Tech and G Tech and one other company, I forget the third name. They've all worked together for, I don't know, since Ohio. So I would imagine since the late 90s, they've all worked together. He lives in Scottsdale. They share a home together. I'm 100% certain, and she has a step brother.
Wait. You're saying that Erica's stepdad shares a home with her actual parents?
No, it was just the mom. The dad actually lives in the next town over.
Okay.
The dad lives in Surprise, which is right outside of Scottsdale, and it's like the upper. I think it's up north.
It's the northwest corner, basically.
Yeah, thank you.
Of the greater metropolitan area.
Damn, I've never even been to Arizona. Look at my memory. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's northwest. Yeah. I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back for remembering that. But the guy has a 35-year experience with Boeing, which, of course, I can't help but think of the planes that have been popping up, like Candace Owens has been saying. Like, if Lawrence Guinta has a long history with Boeing, and as well as the rest of the military industrial complex, like Raytheon and Northrop Grumman, he's got a lot of history with them through AZ Tech and G Tech. But Erica never talks about this guy. You never see pictures of him. The mom doesn't. I'm imagining it's because of, Christian or Catholic reasons of, divorce is bad and remarrying is bad kind of thing. Maybe they just don't want it to be an unsightly thing on the family or whatever. But he's been they've shared an address since since Erica was in high school, so I'm imagining he's fairly important. And it also makes me wonder this whole claim that she's had in multiple interviews where she said, my mother raised me all by myself. That's not true. Like, who's this guy you guys share an address with? And it certainly is married to your mom at this point. And she has a stepbrother that is 2 years, or well, actually a year and a half older than her, named Travis. And he lives in Washington State, according to records. Travis Guinta.
Do you know where in Washington?
Something Arbor.
Oh,
I'd have to look at it.
Oak Harbor, perhaps.
That's not ringing a bell. I can get it for you here in a second, though.
All right.
Here we go. I'll pull it up. Guinta, Travis. That's his name. Sorry. He's 38 years old, and I don't think he has any kids. But he was a fireman in Arizona for a while. You can actually find pictures of him. He did like this, he actually trained firemen at the local Scottsdale fire department. So it's easy to find. Let's see, Lawrence Guinta. Or Travis, sorry. Lawrence is the father, and Lawrence is a junior, by the way. It's Lawrence Jr., Guinta Jr. He lives Gig Harbor. Gig Harbor.
Oh, Gig Harbor, sure, okay.
Mm-hmm. And he lives there now in a place called Artendale, I guess, section of Gig Harbor. He doesn't seem to have anything negative. He seems like a pretty good guy, actually, on paper. I mean, obviously, I don't know this motherfucker, but, one thing I look for in terms of background checks is, of course, how many criminal offenses over what span of time. Usually the juvenile ones is just, they usually get expunged, so you won't get them far back. But it gives you a good context of how active this person is out in the world. And that's something that I noticed didn't exist with Tyler Robinson. If you're not having all these like little problems, you're probably not a problem maker. You know what I mean? Like, you probably aren't. And for all you can see, she went to raised with her stepbrother, raised with the stepdad, but completely denies their existence in every interview, which is just really bizarre when they're so close in age. I talk about my brothers all the time, and I'm like 4.5 years from one of them and 10 years from the other, but it's just bizarre.
Well, you know what else is bizarre? Didn't Charlie's dad help build Trump Tower or something? And we literally don't hear anything about Charlie's family whatsoever. Like, it's the biggest political assassination since Martin Luther King, and literally hasn't been one word uttered, one breath spent on Charlie's family, the siblings, parents, anybody.
Sister. Yeah, he's got a sister who's fairly young. I think her name's Mary, if I'm not mistaken. Mary or Mary.
Couldn't even be brought to mention Charlie's grieving family at the medal ceremony at the White House. Couldn't even. I just find it. People are like, well, they're just private. I'm like, well, it's still kind of strange. It's still kind of weird. It's just kind of weird.
I mean, I don't care how private you are. It's, there's a certain responsibility that I think everybody with any sort of notoriety completely understands. And everyone at least knows one famous person. And I'm sure you would agree that there's like an unspoken understanding that if you're involved in the limelight, that it's going to be a by proxy situation. Other people around you will be affected by it. There is no like complete shuttering. Like Michael Jackson tried to do that with his kids. It doesn't work, right? If you're well known, everyone wants to know about everybody. So like, you're gonna have to expect that. There is no, if your son had the largest public funeral service of anybody in like the last 50, 60 years that you can think of, like, you got to understand that people clearly want to hear from you or see from you, just to give condolences. That's only natural. And it's, if they are, I would imagine they're good Christians like Charlie, that they would understand that, and that they would want to, help with closure and help, share a couple words about how lovely their son is or something. But I understand the pain of, I don't understand the pain of losing a child. I understand the pain of losing somebody.
It's just odd that nobody even mentioned him. Trump obviously knows him and didn't even, praise him for raising a good boy. Didn't even go that far. They're a non-entity. They're basically just a non-entity, and it's just I
Which
just
is
find
weird.
it
Like,
weird.
what's with the ghost parents? Weird. Like ghost families. It's very, very, very bizarre because like you said about JFK, it's been so long. But even I and plenty of people in this room actually have talked to Lee Harvey Oswald's girlfriend. The people even today, and that's been 60 something years, are still prodding to talk to these people because it's important. And, and here we are, we're just a couple months out and we don't even get to talk to the sister, the mom, the dad, anybody who was his good friend, but didn't work at TPUSA. Like, where's his high school friends? Like, didn't he have those people? Like, where are they? What happened to these deep connections that built the man that everyone loves so much?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe didn't Erica's mother, they moved to Arizona in the first place because her business, or she was either working for the Department of Homeland Security or she had a business that contracted with the Department of Homeland Security, and going to Arizona was going to be good for her professionally. I thought I saw that somewhere.
Yeah, that was in an interview she did a couple of years ago, and she said it in multiple interviews. She did one for her high school, which was it's called Northwestern Preparatory, and she did an interview there after she had graduated. She talked about this a lot, and she discussed how for her mom, what would be best for her and better opportunities for a young woman and a mother for her career in the DoD was to go to Arizona, which, I'll say this and people will ignore it. It's whatever. But like, there are two massive hubs for intelligence in the United States: East Coast, West Coast. East Coast, Georgetown University; West Coast, Arizona State, right? There's a reason why Maricopa County is always in some bullshit. It's because the CIA is camped out there like crazy. You'll never even.
Well, I got my MBA from Arizona State, and nobody ever tried to recruit me. And now I'm kind of half offended because I speak a foreign language.
I'm offended about that too.
I'm LDS. I speak a foreign language, and I went to BYU and ASU, and nobody from the government ever made a run at me ever. And I'm a little offended that you think so little of me, government.
Oh, look at that! Says
I'm clipping that. Hey guys, ASU also formed that enterprise. They restructured the way the endowment invests, and they have the ASU enterprises too. Remember, with Michael Crow from Columbia moving over to ASU. Funky shit.
Yeah, no, I totally know. Yeah, so I'm just a little offended that nobody ever made a run at me. Like, hey, Sam, you want to make a little extra cash?
How do you think I feel living here in Virginia? Like, the FBI field house is like 2 miles from my house. I'm like, you guys, you don't even try. Like, I think I'd make a decent honey pot, you assholes. It's not like I would sign up anyways, but it'd be nice to be offered. It's like a guy you don't like who doesn't hit on you, and you're like, you know what? I don't even like you, but it would have been nice if you would have took a pass at me. But like,
I was even kind of like Normie Con back then. We're talking like, late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s. I'm like, I was still like, an idiot normie conservative. Like, you didn't even come at me then? Come on. I didn't mean to derail the space, Maze. Sorry.
That thing, you could have been.
You're good.
They could have tried to, honeypot you, but you declined them. So you just never know, right?
Yeah, man, Destiny would be the ultimate honeypot. She's smart too. She would probably like do the flip on him. That would be amazing.
Dude, stop. That's my deepest fantasy right there. Is like to like psyop the psyopers. Is my deepest.
Yes.
But I know they're listening, so they're gonna like be 10 steps ahead of me. But like maybe that's part of my plan. You'll never know.
Did y'all know the word nation in Hebrew means goy? Oh, happy Halloween.
I'll leave you with one little spicy website. Look up the Ray McKinsey Group. RAE McKinsey Group in Minnesota here. And look where they get their funding and look at what they promote. I'll leave it at that. You guys are going to freak out. It's real. It's a real nonprofit. It gets money from George Soros, Larry Fink, a lot of those big guys.
Cool. Thank you, B Striker. Naga, did you have something? Go ahead and chime in.
Yeah, I just want to say that I brought up the Erica Kirk thing because I thought it was incredibly suspicious. And after hearing what Sam said about that red herring tactic, I think it's even more suspicious now because what it looks like was a coordinated release across several news sites to release it on the same day, and then they left it alone. Like, that's weird.
So yeah, they don't want us. So that what we if it's a fake info dump to poison the well, like, why are they trying to poison the well? The background of Erica Kirk, that well. Why are they trying to poison that well? Right. So now it's like same thing. Going back to Alexis Wilkins and Cash Patel. Like, why don't they want us looking into her? Well, I mean, she works for PragerU and Marissa Strait, IDF Unit 8200 spy. She's the chief of staff for Abraham Hamida, who was former captain in U.S. Army intelligence. Is not even in her state, but she's his, or not chief of staff, but press secretary. She's dating Cash Patel, the head of the FBI. She was introduced to Cash Patel at an event that was put on by General Flynn. Like, who is this girl? And and so now you begin to see maybe why they were bombarding the internet with fake websites and fake stories about her. And so if there's this coordinated drop of fake stories about Eric Kirk, like, yeah, that's kind of interesting. What's going on there?
Good thing to monitor, at least for me.
Thanks, Naga. All right, go ahead, jump in, choose Liberty.
Yeah, I think if I were Usha Vance, this is exactly what I would be doing. I would feel very uneasy about this. The optics look terrible. Oh, back up? Is it a little hot? How's that?
Better.
Better?
Better.
All right, sorry. I would go to the First Lady immediately. And I would say, how do you look so good all the time? And I would get tips from her on fashion and makeup and, any of the other stuffy girls do to look good. And I would immediately get in the gym and I would immediately do everything I can because, to be fair, honestly, I don't think anything's going to happen. But it would be kind of crazy if JD Vance divorced her and then married Erica Kirk and then had a few white babies. Like, that would be crazy. And I would eat my popcorn and I would enjoy every single minute of the reality show.
You guys are funny. Well, I don't know. I have Santino. I don't have the First Lady. Santino is the best to go to and ask all those questions. He's got you covered. Okay. But yeah. So I did see another hand up, but I guess it went down. Oh, it was Liberty. Liberty, Lisa. Welcome to this stage. Did you want to chime in on anything, hon?
Yeah. Hi, you guys. Great space tonight. I had a question for Sam because I know he's probably the most recently watched Candace's video. I watched it early, 4:00 in the afternoon. Anyways, she mentioned NAR. Do you remember that, Sam?
New Apostolic Reform movement. It's this evangelical movement that's associated with the Seven Mountains movement, where evangelical Christians want to basically get Christians infiltrated into the seven mountains or the seven big sectors of the economy, like media, academia, banking, entertainment, politics. I can't remember. It's not my jam. I don't know. This is Mel. This is why Candace was encouraging people to go follow Mel. Mel's been researching this heavily. In fact, I'm up to speed, or I'm only up to speed as I am on it because of conversations with Mel and because of her research. Village Crazy Lady, if you guys want to go find her.
Village Crazy Lady.
Yeah, okay. and so Pastor Rob McCoy, even Charlie Kirk was part of his church, and they've been part of this movement for a while. It's been going on for a while. His involvement with it goes back to even around the beginnings of TPUSA. He was involved in it then. So it's another big aspect or a big element of this mystery. What relevance does it have? And it also goes back to something I was saying on a space earlier this week. Could there be complicity with some people in the evangelical movement? Could they have played a role in this assassination? Certainly. But I made the point that evangelicals themselves don't have, they don't have, same thing with the Mormons. They don't have the juice to control the federal government apparatuses and these other apparatuses that are necessary for the full cover-up in operation. So maybe there's some participation or elements of participation amongst elements in these movements and religions. But like I don't think they can be the prime movers because they just don't have the juice. They don't have the juice that the juice has, if you know what I mean, right? They don't have that level of institutional control to be able to mastermind a plot of this magnitude from top to bottom. Like maybe they can be complicit or help or participants in some way, before the fact or after the fact, but certainly they don't have the juice from top to bottom, A to Z, to mastermind it, pull it off.
Well, here's the thing. Just like we're thinking maybe Egypt is involved to take the eyes off of Mossad, you could look at it the same way.
Exactly.
You could be using different elements that lay low and nobody would notice. But Sam, did you happen to write down the tail numbers of those two planes? Because I want to investigate.
Down in the purple pill. It's down in the purple pill.
Okay,
All Saints,
okay.
Texas is put it there. It's they're I think 5 digits each or 6 digits each, similar tail numbers. But down in the purple pill, you can find it. Anybody can find it down. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Maze, you can throw it up in the nest just to make it easier for people.
Well, I'm thinking that just because Charlie's gone, it's very possible those flights are still occurring, and maybe they're closely aligned with the.
All right, terribly sorry, guys. I'm getting pretty tired. I've been streaming a lot today. I'm gonna shut it down. If y'all want to go, I think it was Ryan Matta. Oh yeah, one too far a minute. Ryan Matta. You can go. It's a live space. It's ongoing.